Hi everyone, this is Sharon. I am here today to share with you a journal I recently completed for Laura. She had requested a journal with kind of a shabby vintage Victorian theme to it, so hopefully I've accomplished that for you, Laura. What I've done to tie this up is I use this kind of taupe colored sari silk ribbon, and then I just embellished that with this little shoe clip, and I think that's really pretty. And I just need to open that up and unclip it. And then we'll untie this. This journal is fairly large. It's about 6.5 by 9, and it comes with a 3-inch spine. It's got 7 signatures and about 170 pages to it. This was a journal that I knew when I used the book cover that I would have to adjust the spine. So that's what I did. It's called Farm Festivals, and I really love this embossed cover on the front. And in order to get the spine as thick as we wanted it, I enlarged it. And what I do is I just rebuild the whole spine using a piece of chipboard as the base, and then I cover it with this fabric and then glue this original book spine over the top of that. And it just gives a really nice finished look to it. Because of the title, Farm Festivals, I wanted to keep this feeling kind of like a French country feel, and that's what I think this fabric kind of exudes. And this is a piece of fabric from France that I've had quite a while. I've added this piece of lace around to the back just to give it a little bit more embellishment and a little bit of that shabby feel. Now if we go inside, I've used a number of digitals, and I'll list all the shops below. I don't know if I'll recall every kit that I've used, but I will list the shops whose bundles I've used or kits that I've used. For the signature covers and quite a few of the journaling pages throughout, I've primarily used the French Chateau collection from Rachel at Roxy Creations. Just a gorgeous kit. I love that one. And then I've used a number of embroidery patterns from Oldusina. I think I pronounced that correctly. And I've also got some things in here from Jacqueline at Souvenir de la France. And these inside covers are from a new kit that I just got from Lorna at Tailor Made Journals. It's an embroidery samples kit, and I think it has about 27 pages, and these are all images from the 1800s. I just love those. And I put one of these on the front cover and a different one on the back cover, so I really like that. For the spine, I use this really pretty kind of a tapestry, silk tapestry fabric. This and a number of other fabrics and trims I've got in here. I came from a fabric bundle that I purchased from Rachel, also at Roxy Creations. I think that's probably the bulk of what I wanted to go through before we step through all the pages. The other thing I just wanted to mention is I did add a little bit of kind of scrappy lace on the top and the bottom to finish the spine off. So as we step through, this will take a bit because it is quite large, but here I created a fabric pocket and just folded that over and added a button there. And then here is one of the embroidery patterns images from the Oldusina embroidery pattern kit that I talked about. And then here I inserted a journaling card and a piece of vintage ephemera. And this is, looks like from the early 1912. And then here I just added a little piece of paper doily just to kind of layer that up a little bit. I've got several book pages in here. And this is an 1891 ledger sheet. I just love the handwriting on there. I've used quite a number of original pieces of ephemera in here because that's what Laura had requested. I think this was some type of a school workbook, but the penmanship is just gorgeous. And then I've got this botanical page from a book. And then here I've got a journaling card that I created, and there's an extra little card in the back there. And this is a coffee-dyed piece of ledger paper. And because of the size of the book, for the journal pages where I printed out the digitals, I wrapped those around and then glued those to another sheet of paper. So you'll see, typically I'll wrap them over maybe about an inch or so and then do a fancy punched edge along there just to give it a little bit more interest. On this side I created a shallow pocket, and in there I created this journaling card. And it's got a little pocket in the back. I acquired some old newspapers from my hometown from the 1800s, and so I've used some of the advertising from those in here as well as journaling cards. And I did have to back those just to keep them intact because they are pretty fragile. And then this corner piece right here is something I've done in a recent tutorial on just creating some corner bookmarks. I just thought that looked really nice up there. On this side of the page, I've got this top tuck, and in there I just inserted some of the title page and some other pages from the book. And this book is dated from, I think it's 1881. Older than I thought. This page comes from a book on architecture, and I just love the images in there. There's some photos and then some line drawings. And so what I did was I just folded those pages in and did, again, some edge punching on there. And something to consider, like on this page, it was also too tall, and rather than cutting it off, what I did was I folded it down so I could create these tucks. And then on this side, I just kind of took that corner, hopefully you can see that, and folded it up and then added a little paper button on there. It just kind of finishes those corners off a little bit on there. And then on this top tuck, here I added some paper lace on there. And then in there, this is an idea I got from Rachel at Roxy Creations in her 100-day project. She created the most beautiful, they're like fabric sample pages. And these are just, you know, to imitate those. And so I added some paper on the back side here that allows for quite a bit of room for writing. And then on this side, there's just some various vintage fabrics, scraps, antique fabrics, laces, and then some labels and things that I've added to that. I just think those are so pretty. And then here I just added a little tab and then added some laces onto that as well. I'm going to prop this side of my journal up so it's easier to see. Okay, on this side of the page, I did some stenciling with inks, and then I took some golden metallic rub and just added that to the candle flames. And I just think that just adds a little bit of shine and shimmer there. And then across this page, I created an envelope. I just clipped that on there. I actually made this envelope from a piece of packaging that I got in the mail, and I turned it inside out because on the inside it had these fibers on there, and I thought that was really cool. So I just embellished it a little bit, and then in the side seam I stitched in a couple of labels, and then I got a tab there, and inside there I just tucked this antique postcard. On this side of the page, I got this flip out, some coffee dyed paper on there. Move this over a little bit so you can see it. And then in there I just tucked this page from a botanical book. On this page I added some beautiful trim. This is a page from a butterfly book that I have. On this side I created a pocket with a couple of tags in it. So this one, I took one of these inventory tags and inked my embossing folder and then ran it through the embossing machine to get that effect. And then on the top I just stapled this vintage playing card. And then here's another tag that I made. This is made from, the base is a vintage time card. This is a page from 1940s, I believe it is. Kind of a appointment book type of thing. This is some very old, I think it's from the 1700s, a big tome that I got. So on this side, because of the size of the page again, I turned the bottom up to create a pocket, and I also turned the side in. And then I just kind of tacked that down in the corner here with some lace and a label. And then in there, I tucked this journaling card. And this is a card I made last summer from one of my G. Kerr design team projects. I just really love this, and I finally found what I think is the perfect spot for it. It's got a little bit of slow stitching on there. And then in the back I did some machine stitching for the lines, so you could actually write on there. Again, some of my coffee dyed paper. And on this side, this flips out. And then here, this is an antique photo album page. It's got some really nice design around it, but I like how this turned out. So what I did was I took the spots where you would normally insert photos, and on this front page here I added this vintage postcard from an ocean liner. I think it's from the 50s. And then on this page I added this image. In the center here I've got this very old piece of ledger paper, and I believe this is from 1841. Then on this side of that L1 page, I again added some images and just inserted those into the little tabs there. And then on this side as well, some pretty ladies in those. Over on this side of the page, I have this kind of extra writing spot here with the lines, and that flips out. There's an image on the inside, and then place to write. Here on this side again, I have that large old book page, and so I've embellished the corner there, and then in there I've got another one of those journaling cards that I did a little bit of slow stitching on. Here in this pocket, again, the beautiful butterflies, I've got this tag. What I did with the ribbon on the top is I kind of threw it over like a scarf and then just stapled that down. Just gives it kind of almost a fashion look to it, I think. And then this is the back side. Here I created a belly band with a piece of ledger paper, and then I just finished the edge with some washi tape. That just gives it a little more strength there too. And then this is a piece of coffee dyed paper that I used a rather large stencil on. This is a page from the 1800s. Oh, what is the name of that book? Peterson's, I believe it's called, the Peterson's magazine. And it just has a bunch of like fashion things, embroidery. Really neat. I liked reading through those. On this side of the page, I have this, I did some dyeing of paper recently with black beans. And I really love the results I got. Most of the papers are this really pretty light blue. Some of them are a little bit of a periwinkle look to them. So I've used a number of those throughout this journal. And I just did some stenciling up in the corner. And then here I've got a little flip with a stamp on there. And then in there I just got this little cigarette card. Here on this page, I created a fabric flip with one of those beautiful tapestry fabrics from Rachel. I was going to flip it up, but I've got it actually glued down the side, so it actually flips out this way. It just, because of the weight and things, worked out better. And so I've got this stamp on the inside there. So that's a nice place to write. Here's a piece of old ledger paper. I just added some stickers on there. And then over on this side, I created a side tuck. And in there, I've got this little envelope I made from, it's a copy of a page from a Rose book that I recently, or a Rose catalog that I've purchased recently. It's got a lot of neat images in there, and I just put this photo in there of this lady and the baby. And then this is a tag I made. I used one of my fabric yo-yos as the tab on the top. And I just covered that with some old wallpaper and a little bit of embossed paper. Just kind of a little side tuck in there if you wanted to tuck something in. And that's the back, and I just stapled on some extra writing space there. Here I create a side tuck from one of my digitals that I have in my shop, and it's kind of like a doily kind of an image. And then I've got this script under there for the page, and then in there I inserted this vintage envelope, and I added my wax seal and a pressed flower on there. And the letter for that envelope is inside. Here on this page, I folded this doily over the page and then just stitched that on so it creates some side tucks there. And these are ones that I dyed with some of that black bean solution as well. On this side, I just tucked this little bookmarker that I made. So you see I've got a number of those Edith Holden book pages in here. This is just a little kind of a journaling spot that I made. Stitched a couple layers together. Nice place to write. Here again, another one of those beautiful trims from Rachel, and I just left this. It had a bunch of these tassels, but they would have gotten too bulky, so I just left the end one on there that I can kind of hang over the side of the page. Here I created a corner tuck with this image of a postcard, and in there, this is one of those embroidery images from Lorna at Tailor Made Journals. And I just added an embossed piece on there and some lines on the back. This is a page from an engineering kind of a workbook type thing. And I like using those because it's got that really beautiful kind of cobalt blue writing to it. On this page, I created something a little bit different. It's almost like a paper cameo that I've clipped over the top of the page. So it's two-sided. There's one on each side. It's got these beautiful images on there. And then on the back, it's just got these rose images. Some more French ledger or workbook page. And then in the center of this signature, I have this. I've held on to it for quite a while, but it's a centerfold from a Peterson's magazine from 1890. Just beautiful colors to that. On this page, I've got this embroidery fabric, and that I've got in as a flip and room for writing under there. And then on the top, I used a piece of embossed velvet. I don't know if you can see the pattern in there. Here I created a top tuck on this page, did a little bit of machine stitching, and then in there I've got this letter image that I printed on some tracing paper, and then I've got a wax seal on there and a ribbon, and then I've got this vintage envelope that I kind of altered a little bit, and got some of the original pieces that were in there, and then another book page in there. Here I created a corner tuck with this image and added some lace and velvet, little label on there. And then in here I created this little writing spot. Again, this is a Rachel idea. Just folds out. And in here I tucked a few things, some stamps and this vintage postcard. Here I've got another flip. This is just like a piece of muslin that I wanted to try out a new, it's a wood block print that I got. I just used some ink to stamp that. And at the bottom, I just tied on some ribbon and a little metal. And then on this side of the page, you get another top tuck. I've got some Florentine paper on there, and I just embellished it with a button and some lace. And in there, I created this journaling card. I got these chandelier images from Allure Bookscraft. And I think it comes in a set of 8, but they're just really gorgeous images. I've used a couple of those in here. I just stitched that onto some book page, and on the back I've got this vintage wallpaper. And then this little tab. In this pocket, I inserted this little coin envelope that I made from a wall calendar page. I just love the colors in some of these garden images. And then there I just have this little journaling card. A little belly band in there, and I put this, it's kind of an advertising piece for Arm & Hammer. Here I've got painter's masking paper, and I just did a little bit of stenciling on there with some ink. And on this side of the page, I clipped on this tag that I made. I've got a couple of, these are like samplers of lace images, so I added those on, and then this is the back. Here I just created a couple of eyelets and stuck some muslin ties on there. And then in the center of this signature, I've got a couple of belly bands. Let's take my clips off. I made 2 of these cards that hang over the side of the belly bands. And I used some frames from Souvenir de la France and some images from Roxy Creations and just layered those up. Added a tab on the bottom that flips open. It's got this pretty image on the back. I used some of my cheesecloth kind of as a hinge, and there's some writing space on the bottom of it. And here's the other one. Here I created a very narrow belly band from some leftover paper that I had, and in there I just inserted this 1943, looks like a kind of a receipt or an invoice or something. It's in Italian. Very pretty though. Here I created a flip for some writing space. And on this side I've got a pocket, and in there I've inserted this, it's an original vintage French seed packet, and then this antique postcard. On this side of the page, I added as a flip this tulle with some dotted Swiss on there. And then I have a ruffle and some other fabric layered on the top and stitched on. Here I created a corner tuck from one of those dyed doilies. And on this side, I've got a side tuck, and I created a couple of these little journaling cards. They're almost like fabric sample type things as well. So this one has a little fabric sample on the bottom that I stitched on. And then I just added this pretty tab on the top. That's the back. And then this one is for curtains. Got some tapestry fabric there in the back of that one. On this page, this flips out, and I just added this piece of vintage ephemera on the back. This is an old envelope that I used for the flip. And then in that envelope, I've got this journaling card. And then behind the tuck, I made this piece from an old catalog. I just did some light stenciling on the inside. On the top of this page, I took an old postcard and just stitched that to the top to create a tuck spot. Added some paper doily. Another page from that Peterson's magazine. This is a piece of wallpaper I stenciled on the top. The front side of that wallpaper piece. It's really pretty. And I just created a side tuck with this digital image, and there's some stitching on there. It's a little bit hard to see. And then I trimmed it up with this metallic piece down here. And in there, I tucked a few things. I have this, it's like a negative strip, and it's from the Hearst Castle. I think it's an image of the building of the castle. And I just decided there were a bunch of those little holes along the side that you see on negatives, and so I just did a little bit of stitching in there. Then I've got some vintage letters that I also tucked in there. This is from an old cookbook, and I just love the font in that cookbook, so I like to use those as journal pages. Here on this side, I've got this flip out, and on there, again, I did some stitching. This is actually a row of single crochet stitching that I put on there. And then in the center of the signature, I did some decoupaging with this napkin, and then this is an image from an Italian book. And then the back side of that. And then I just embellished the top of this page. In this pocket, I've got another one of those coin envelopes that I made. And then in there, I've got one of those chandelier images. Just love those. And then some embossed paper in the back. And for these really thin papers, I do like to just give them a little bit more heft by putting some washi tape or something else to reinforce them. On this side, I created this little flippy thing. I've got a couple closures, kind of like a policy envelope closure on there. And then I've embellished it with some layered paper there. This comes open, and then this comes open, and then there's a little pocket in here. I've trimmed this up with some old ledger paper and stitched that on. And then in the pocket, I've got another one of those newspaper advertising pieces. And then this antique postcard. Let's see, this, and then this. A little stamping on that corner. And then here I created this, I don't know what you call it, but it's almost like a tab. I've got an eyelet here, or a brad, I should say, and it just kind of wraps all the way around to this side of the page as well. And then on this side, I just tucked in this little piece that I made, a little journaling card. In this pocket, I added this little square of embossed paper, and then inserted this tag. Piece of old men's suiting on top I used for the tab. Here I've got a flip that I made from paper and this linen piece with this really pretty crochet trim on the edge. Here I created a belly band with this rather colorful paper. It's a really thick wrapping paper, but I like the colors in there. And then I just have these corresponding items that kind of match. This is vintage telegram from the 50s. And then I created this little journaling card. It's an old library card. I just kind of embellished that a little bit. I created a side tuck on here, and this base is a piece of old ledger paper from the 1800s with gorgeous handwriting on it. I think I need to prop my book again for these last few pages. Here I created a pocket with this vintage looking, I don't know what that is. Looks like some old embroidery piece. And then in there I've got this altered photo and this one as well. This is some coffee dyed paper that I dyed, and I just used a large stencil again to create that image on there. And in there I tucked this vintage advertising piece from a Paris hotel. It's got some really pretty images on it. In this pocket I got a couple more photos that I just embellished a little bit. And they make great spots to write on the back as well. Another fabric flip with some lace and this nice holey linen fabric. And I just did a little bit of slow stitching on the top. In this corner, I've got a little cluster of some doily and embossed paper, a little bit of fabric and a label. And then on this side, I've got another shallow pocket, a little bit of trim on there as well, and this journaling card. And this shallow little side tuck, I created this journaling card as well. And this just has some beautiful tapestry image or doily image, I think it is, on the back there. And this onion skin paper. And this is writable as well. And this is that other embroidery image I put on the back of the cover. So that is my latest creation, and I hope you like it, Laura. I'm working on a couple of other items right now too, kind of in the same sort of style, so lots of fun things coming up. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Until next time, bye-bye.